I think it's important to note that I think competition is a really healthy thing, and it brings out the best in a lot of people. If it's not bringing out the best in you, maybe it's time to take a step back and ask, what do you want from fighting games? All right, it's hella early. I got my morning coffee right here, and today we're talking about the mentality of fighting games. So here we go. I'm going to preface this video with saying that I'm going to give an actual real life example of what I'm about to say later on in the video. But I want to give you the more juicy stuff in the beginning of the video. So without further ado, here we go. Now, the mentality of fighting games, in my opinion at least, has been figured out already. The overall message of a lot of these videos is quite simply to just enjoy the process of learning fighting games. Even if you lose a match badly, you could still learn something very valuable that you can bring into the next match. You shouldn't be discouraged if you lost, because you're still retaining something at the end of the day. I mean, even the best players in the world can lose sometimes, and that's okay. Now, this might sound overly reductive what I'm about to say, but I guess my contribution to this conversation would simply be, it's just a video game. You gotta remind yourself, or at least ask yourself the question as to why you're playing the game in the first place, if it's making you angry. You know, not a lot of people play video games as a job. It's more of a hobby, a leisurely activity for a lot of people. So if you're spending a lot of negative time and energy on video games, and it's not what you want to pursue as a career in any capacity, then you're simply just wasting your time. And quite frankly, there's a lot more productive stuff you could be doing with your time. You could be playing another video game that you enjoy and doesn't bring you this sort of negative emotion. It's not always about the grind to be the best player in your region, unless if you want it to be.
It's about drive, it's about power. We stay hungry, we devour.
I guess this is just a long-winded way of saying that fighting games are complicated, but video games shouldn't be. Now, ego is just a really interesting concept in general, but we need to realize that we're playing fighting games and video games at the end of the day. If you have an ego about being good or, particularly exceptional about a fighting game, and if you want to protect that and hold on to that, then respectfully, I think you should be reevaluating some things in your life. That doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't have passion for fighting games, but tying your self-worth to fighting games in general is just a bad idea. Now, I want to get into my example. I had this happen real time with me when it came to Guilty Gear Strive. To be quite honest with you, I don't enjoy Strive like I used to. I started the game about 2 to 3 months after its release, and I obviously had a blast. I was learning the characters, learning exactly how to play the game, and it was my first ever Guilty Gear. And then I realized after a certain period of time that I would just kind of not have fun, especially in certain matchups or situations. Yet I would force myself to play because I thought to myself, well, if I learn how to deal with this situation, right? Learning, like we were talking about before, is very important in the fighting game community. And if I learn how to deal with these scenarios and situations, then I wouldn't feel as bad. And I would actually start enjoying myself more. So I would lab situations, and after a while, it was quite jarring to me how certain win conditions in Guilty Gear worked. And I started to not enjoy that part of the game. Yet I forced myself to play it up to this week. I would force myself to hop on ranked and have a terrible time. I would play with friends, oftentimes thinking that it would be great to talk with someone and, go back and forth and discuss the matchup and whatnot. And I still wasn't having fun. Even if I was winning the match, I still wasn't having fun. And I forced myself to play it because, that's what a lot of people are playing right now. And as a content creator, I felt like it was an obligation to invest in this game. And after almost 2 years of being in beta and, it coming out now, this year, and the state that it's in, I can quite confidently say it's quite embarrassing. That they had 2 years to figure this out and were still kind of working on the game and the balance and whatnot. But I'm getting too much into Guilty Gear and not into the mentality. My mentality was that I forced myself to like the game, or I was trying to like the game because I did not want to sound like a scrub. If you're familiar with Scrub Quotes, it's a Twitter page that reposts a bunch of messages from people that just complain and just hilarious messages and cope. And for the longest time, I thought to myself, if I quit Guilty Gear Strive, then I'm just the same people from Scrub Quotes. I know this is a really unhealthy way of thinking, but at the time I was like, well, if I don't learn these situations and if I don't learn to like the game, it took me a very long time to realize that I simply just dislike Guilty Gear Strive. And that's okay. It's okay to dislike a particular fighting game. And that's not to say that I'm never going to play Strive ever again. Of course, I think I have 2 reasons right now to come back, now that I think about it. I hope this helped at least a couple of people kind of figure out whether they have some sort of crisis when it comes to a fighting game. You shouldn't have to like try too hard when it comes to like enjoying a particular video game. If you don't like a video game, you just don't like it. That's okay. If you enjoyed this morning talk, feel free to subscribe. I'm probably going to put out a lot more of these in the future. Take care.